So my top 10, Allen 10, Burrow 9, Lamar 8, Goff 7, Herbert 6, Purdy 5, Tua 4, Trevor Lawrence 3, Hurts 2, Mahomes 1. Is that a fair list heading into week 2? Is that fair? I can't elevate, and I can't Stafford's 11th to me. Okay? I can't justify some of that stuff. Now, again, I'm going to make this point to you very clear here on what we saw on week 1 heading into this Thursday game here. I'm going to make it very clear here. Could it be rust on the offensive side? Yes. Too many open passes Jalen missed. They were one reads. I thought he was terrible in that game. However, establishing Gainwell over Goddard is ridiculous. The play calling was chaotic. I mean, if you're trading for Swift, why in the world do you don't play him? Then you turn around and you look at defense. Dude, your defense is a personnel issue. And that's not going to get rectified by Thursday in a short work week. Guy who does our post-game show here on JAKIB, and one of the absolute great legends in the history of Philadelphia sports talk. It's our friend Mike Missinelli. Mike, how you doing, brother? How you doing, Paisan?
Are you fired up today, Big Sills?
What's that?
Are you fired up about the Eagles? Are you down on the Birds?
I think some of the things we all thought, Mike, and for 6 months of preparation, you knew that this guy was going to throw different defenses at them. And to see the running back, linebacker, and safety position all be the issues that we were all hitting on play itself out, I was disappointed that it wasn't addressed.
I agree with you to an extent. Now, here's the thing. I look at this game, and it's funny how things have shifted in Philadelphia, that we're totally dissatisfied with a C game that they played, but it was a win. Like, that doesn't usually happen.
Absolutely.
In Philadelphia. They won a game where they didn't have their A stuff. Now, you can look at it many ways, and I agree with you on Hurts. He seemed out of sorts. He seemed like he was not in a flow, and maybe you could chalk that up to not playing in preseason. I don't know. He showed so much more progression last year on seeing the field than he did in the first game, but I can't overreact to the first game. I can make a judgment maybe on the offensive coordinator, who was a little ahead of his skis, maybe overwhelmed a little bit by the moment, because when you're not utilizing two of what's supposed to be your important weapons, and Goddard certainly is one of them, but DeAndre Swift's another one. I don't know what that's all about, unless they just didn't like what they were seeing in practice. They overcommit to Gainwell. They're in love with Kenny Gainwell. So maybe that influences the whole thing. But somewhere along the line, if you're a coordinator, and this is different, live action in a game, you got to go, okay, in your head, I haven't gotten Goddard involved yet. I haven't gotten Swift involved. I think those things have to go through your mind as a savvy offensive coordinator who's in tune with every moment.
I would say this to you, that both coordinators, to me, had quite the task. And Sean Desai, I mean, if one thing you came away from the game, Mike, I think that Davis and Carter both did a great job, along with Fletcher, stopping the run. However, the things that I said there's not a chance in hell you're going to cover Dallas, or you're going to cover Hunter Henry or Gesick, and it played itself out. And it just seemed to me, on what you just said, Mike, the end-game adjustments, Belichick spread you out right away. He wanted to see what you were going to do. And once they figured it out in-game. Whereas the Eagles did not figure it out. And it just seemed that they were plugging and playing, trying to run the same stuff over and over. And I thought it became predictable.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. I look at it like it's a W. And they're a good team that played bad and still won. So
good teams find a way to win playing crappy, like you just said.
And that's the sign of a good team. So I'm not going to overreact to them not burying the Patriots. They did cover.
Right.
in this game. But you picked out one thing that's really problematic that they rarely address, and I, for the life of me, do not understand it. In the middle of the field with their linebackers and covering tight ends, they really have never put that as a priority. Now Thursday night, T.J. Hawkinson's coming into town, and they're down a linebacker now, and they're going to have to activate a guy from the practice squad. And if I'm the offensive coordinator, I try to exploit that all the time in the middle of the field. So they're going to have to figure that out. Now, they didn't get a good end rush in this game, but they got a good push in the middle. And I thought that affected Mac Jones a little bit because he knew he had to get rid of the ball very quickly from the jump because of their outside rush. But once those guys started pushing up on him, I think those last two possessions, I think, proved it out a little bit. They got a little pressure on him in those last two possessions, and he couldn't make a play against it.
You know, Mike, I'll tell you something else that was really an issue for me was communication. I mean, here's another, in 2.5 years now, I've been covering your team. And to see you wasting timeouts for personnel not being on the field and special teams, you know, pre-snap penalties are the one thing that aggravate me more than anything because it takes no ability to line up and know where you're supposed to line up. I mean, that's not an ability thing. That's a communication and organizational thing. And for you not to be organized like that for 2 years, Mike, this has gone on for 2 years.
Yeah,
it's going to catch them.
Inexcusable, really. And their special teams coach, he has not really covered himself in glory here. I know the play you're talking about to get that guy on for the field goal was who was it? Was it Opeta or whoever it was that got in there late? I'm going, well, how could that possibly happen? You just had a training camp where that of all things has to be buttoned down. Special teams, all right, punt unit, field goal unit, get on the field. And for that to happen, it was ridiculous. Good teams don't make those kind of mistakes. But again, still, this is like, it's game one against a master who was going to throw curveballs at the quarterback. It took a while to figure it out. I don't think it's that big of a deal, to be honest with you.
Do you think this is a big deal? Christian Ellis, Nicholas Morrow, and Zach Cunningham going into Thursday's game.
Yeah,
how about this personnel, Mike? Against this, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne, and TJ Hawkinson. Do you think those three are going to have – that's a bigger personnel jump, isn't it, than what we saw on Sunday?
It's a problem. And they never think it's a problem. That's the most perplexing thing. Year after year, they don't – they devalue what's in the middle, and I don't understand it. I don't understand why you – like TJ Edwards was not a great athletic linebacker last year, but he was solid. He gave them solid games. And for him not to sign him at $6 million, like that's an example of how they devalue the position. Okay, well now look what you're living with. I mean, you got this the guy that you still don't even know if Nakobe Dean can play at this level, and now he's going to be out for 4 weeks or whatever it is. And now you're at the scrap heap. I mean, you start Zach Cunningham and Christian Ellis and bring Nicholas Morrow in. I mean, that's as inferior a linebacking unit as they've had in a really long time, and they're known for inferior linebacking units.
The Birmingham Stallions in the USFL have a better linebacking core than the Philadelphia Eagles do. Who do you think they're going to miss more, in your opinion? Let's not do the season. Let's do the first quarter poll, the first 4.5, 5 games here. C.J. Gardner-Johnson or T.J. Edwards? Now, Edwards had 160 tackles last year, and the other guy led the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I love the way C.J. Gardner-Johnson played because he made plays. He was dynamic. But I agree with you. I think it's Edwards for the consistency, and they took that for granted for some reason. Now, their safeties were, Blankenship had some moments, but he got beat on a touchdown, and the other guy didn't play very well at all. So are they going to trust Sidney Brown now in that position? They got some things they have to work out. They've got to get the pass rush established, first of all. Though. I mean, Hassan Reddick was obviously not himself, and Sweat and Nolan Smith didn't contribute at all. I expected I was going to see a couple plays with him. That didn't happen. But again, the encouraging part, Jalen Carter was a man. 6 pressures. You can't ask for better than that.
I thought you know what, and I'll even go here. I thought Jordan Davis did a really nice job in a starting role. And to me, I'd like to see Fletcher, Mike, as more of the rotation guy and get those two guys out there, because I tell you, man, that's a formidable two. He played really well. I was impressed with how he stopped the run. And Carter in the middle, man, he's a havoc wreaker. I'm telling you, he's the best thing that I've seen inside there. Corey Simon, maybe, and Jerome.
I agree with that. The other thing about Jordan Davis is they played him in a 4-down lineman instead of that 5 configuration where he could have been a nose tackle, where they trusted him a little more. They trusted him to play that 4-down lineman position, and he came through for him. So that's the most encouraging part of that whole game. Those two young guys in the middle, and then they can just get that rotation off them. The problems are in the middle of the field at the tight end, and whether Jalen Hurts now with a game under his belt will loosen up a little bit. There was just a blatant example of it late in the game, and Romo pointed it out. You're seeing the whole field. You see Goddard. I mean, Goddard's breaking wide open on that pattern, and he saw that last year. For some reason, he was just blocked on that play, and he had A.J. Brown in his head, and that was going to be it. So he's got to loosen up a little bit.
And what you said a couple minutes ago, Mike, I mean, I saw 5 underneath, and I'm like, what is that coverage? I'm like, holy cow, man. But, Mike, I'm gonna go back to the coaching staff again here. In 2017, when you guys prepared for the Super Bowl, you knew that guy was going to throw exotic schemes at you. You knew how he thinks. That coaching staff with Schwartz and with Frank and with Doug knew that was happening. How were you not thinking that guy was going to throw different looks at Jalen and not be prepared for that? Goddard gets 1 target, and Gainwell has more touches on the football than Goddard, who's probably the 3rd best tight end. I mean, that's more coordinator and coaching, isn't it?
We talked about the coordinator, and there was 2 schools of thought on it. One, it wasn't going to make that much of a difference because their offensive personnel was so superior, and Desai wasn't that much different from what they played last year. Plus, he had that fan show influence, and so everything was all good. But it just doesn't happen magically. You get 2 new coordinators, and they're both overmatched in this one. All right, let's face it; they're a little overmatched against this coaching staff. So they showed it. So is it a position now where we have to wait for them to gain experience on the job here? Or is this a 1-game aberration and they're going to be fine? I don't know. We'll see. This is a big game Thursday. They're a 7-point favorite, Minnesota. And that dude always plays well in these games, that Kirk Cousins. And I think the Minnesota Vikings showed last week. I mean, you lose at home to Tampa Bay, you stink. So I don't think the Eagles are in danger of losing this game. But we'll see how it plays out.
All right, now I'm going to put 2 legends against each other because tomorrow Angelo Cataldi's coming on. He thinks that Nick is a cheerleader. And what I didn't like, Mike, on what he said at the press conference, maybe, I have to rethink about, having our guys play during – and I'm like this. What does that have to do with the Sunday and with Thursday coming up? It has that stuff you talk about in the offseason, not now. I mean – that was almost like an off-ramp of an excuse on why they didn't play well. And that's the kind of stuff Andy Reid on Thursday goes, this is on me, all of it. I
think that was a throwaway line. He still hasn't learned. Here's what he's thinking. Okay, if I really go head-to-head and butt this point that this guy's making, it turns into a longer conversation than I really want. So I'll give them what they want here, and we'll move on to.
So he's trying to diffuse it.
Yeah, I mean, he's thinking, okay, I don't really because I could hold my ground here and say it had nothing to do with it, and then it generates a bigger conversation in that room, and then for the whole week on Sports Talk Radio or whatever. Or he could smart enough to say, yeah, you know what, maybe I have to look at that, and then next year, blah blah blah, and then it's the end of story. Then people go away. So I think I don't see him as a savvy guy to do something like that. But in this case, I could see that maybe he did the right thing and was savvy about it. He's normally not that savvy of a guy. He is more of a cheerleader. But I think he processed that quickly, like a veteran coach saying, if I answer anything different, but yeah, we'll have to look at that for next year, then people are going to make this a bigger deal.
Mike, I'm like Heath Ledger in the Joker and the Batman movie too. Do I look like I have a plan? I chase ambulances. So, I mean, I see the same thing here with Nick. I don't think he planned that out too well. Last question for you.
I thought it was notable that he This is where I think he went too far when he praised Brian Johnson. Like he went overboard to praise Brian Johnson. And I say that to me in Philadelphia, that kind of thing is kind of phony because we all saw Brian Johnson was overmatched in this game,
Completely.
right? So you don't have to say that he was bad, but you don't have to say, oh, he was fantastic and our communication was great and blah, blah, blah. That's where I think he loses some people when he goes into that overboard Nick Sirianni mode.
Absolutely. All right, last question for you. Are you concerned about Thursday?
No. I'm not concerned about,
Because it's Cousins after 4:30.
That team, that's a big indicator. When you lose at home to a bad team,
Absolutely.
to me, that's an indicator of what you have. And so I don't think that they're in trouble in this game. I think they're going to play a lot better. I think actually the fact that there's this reaction that, oh my God, they were so disappointing and they still won the game, maybe gets under their skin a little bit. And they go, all right, let's go out and ball out.
See, Mike, the problem I thought the game had, though, was I said that Belichick wanted this thing to be the ugliest game he could possibly make it and have the ball in his hands with a chance to win it. And he did. With 2 minutes left, he had a shot to win it. And I think maybe that is the more disappointing thing if you're a player, that the other team did have their swings to win the thing. Now, they made plays to win it, but that's out coaching people.
His team wasn't good enough to win that game. But
Absolutely
here's
not.
the thing about Belichick that surprised me, Sills. Even he's been infected by the analytics part of it.
Yes.
Because you don't kick that field goal twice on that drive. I mean, you had a 53-yarder that you passed up, okay. And then you get to the 17 and you go for it on fourth down. I'm going, Belichick? Because if you have those 3 points, it makes it a lot easier on you. And conversely, with the Eagles, and I know this is the analytics thing. If you convert 4th and 2, 95% chance you're going to win the game or whatever. But what's the chance that if they pooch that and they get New England to start at the 15-yard line, is there any chance in hell that Mac Jones with those popcorn weapons is going to go 85 yards down the field?
Zero.
So that's my analytics.
No. I mean, hey, Mike, you can have analytics if you have Brady in the huddle. I mean, he's going to throw you out of your mistakes. I mean, but when you have Mac Jones and you're going analytics, I don't know, guys.
You can look at a straight number and say, okay, it's 4th and 2. The chances are we're going to convert time. We're going to win the game. And then conversely, it's, but they can't win it if we pooch, right? So how could they get the ball down the field with Mac Jones and what they have out there?
So I got the 3 Godfathers on this week. Anthony's going to come on Friday, and I got Angelo tomorrow, and you, the 3 Philly Godfathers of sports.
Oh, nice.
Hey,
tell
Mike,
him I
you
said
do
hello.
such a great job. You do such a
baby.
great job. I thank you so much, my friend. Thank you again, folks. Don't forget, post-game show Sundays right after Eagle games. Mike Missinelli is the wheel runner. He runs that thing around with D-Gun and all the folks. Seth and the guys, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thanks, buddy. We'll talk.
You got it, man. My friend, Mike Missinelli, one of the great legendary guys, Philadelphia Sports Talk. Don't forget, also, the home of another Paisan, Big Sills. The National Football Show is Hooters Northeast. Go to northeasthooters.com for you to find one of the 7 locations. The King of Prussia one's going to be the one where we're going to be doing a lot of our great events at. And listen, if you don't want to go into the place, you can go right online near to hooterstogo.com and you can order your food. It's some of the best grub on the planet. I've been eating it for 40 years. It is great. Try some of the great anniversary specials that we have had for so many decades. Wing Wednesdays, man. I mean, it's the 40th anniversary of one of the great traditions, 1983, all you can eat. Some of the great happy hours that we have there too. Some of the great specials. 6 items, $6. We have that. Try the fried pickles. You'll love them. NortheastTutors.com to find one of the 7 locations nearest you. And when you go in, do me a favor. Tell them Big Sill sent you.